Good morning, and thanks for tuning in the latest installment of Glenn's Vintage Radio Restorations. This is a 1936 Stromberg Carlson Model 160. This is how it looked in the home where it had resided for quite a long time from what the previous owner had told me. Came from just outside of Toronto, a little village outside of Toronto, Bell Fountain. Here's how it looked when it arrived in the garage. You can see it's a big chassis, 14 tube chassis, which is a fairly substantial radio. And has the acoustical labyrinth, which is a Stromberg Carlson thing. And you can tell that the cabinet had been varnished over the old finish on it to try and clean it up probably at one time, but it was starting to flake off. Got a rather unique dial on it. 5 bands, and the arrangement of the knobs on it is a little different too. It's just fairly unique. There's the plate on the back of it with the serial number, and there's the chassis again, fairly large, and this thing was just caked up with stuff. I don't know what this green, dusty, moldy stuff was on it, but anyway, I put a mask on and just started chipping away at cleaning it up. Pretty gross stuff, and you can see, all this yellowing and such. It's all from just smoke damage over the years. And yes, underneath all that, it is silver. So you're never really sure what you're going to get with some of these. So anyway, it's a labor of love trying to scrape through them and figure out what issues it has and rectify them. This is the tube complement of the radio. There's a sticker on the back plate of it. And the schematics for this radio are fairly easy to find on the internet. If you're curious to learn more about it, you can find them online. And there's the labeling of the labyrinth on the back of the radio cabinet. I tried to clean this thing up, but it was just a mess and flaking off. So eventually I found a way to reproduce it. You can just see how the stuff here that, good luck trying to get that to bring any radio stations in clean in the condition that that's in. But again, it's just a matter of taking your time and doing the work. And these radios that were set aside weren't totally useless. They made a great home for all kinds of critters, bugs. And there's the labyrinth. Just getting ready to pull it from the chassis. You can see these stickers up here, or labels. Pretty messed up, almost impossible to read most of them. So I did find a way to reproduce those as well. You can see how the labyrinth wraps around the back of the speaker to try and keep the bassiness or the boominess of the cabinet down, and I really think it does quite a nice job of doing just that. There's a view of the inside of the labyrinth to show you some kind of this kind of dampening material that they put in there, along with some reinforced wiring mesh to hold it all together. The cloth, I was hoping I'd be able to preserve it, but it's just like a lot of these. It might look really good in a picture taken from afar, but once you get up close to them, you can see the material's gotten so thin and stretched out over time that it just, well, you can see right through it, and it's failing in many places. You can see all the dirt, and it's just impossible to get out of it. So I did put a substitute cloth in it, and I think I found something that worked pretty well. You can be the judge of that later when you see it. And here we go. It's now all disassembled and ready to be stripped down. On this one I decided to use a couple of Minwax stains to try to blend some of the veneers a little better. This is Colonial and Golden Oak is what I chose for this project. And you see it's starting to clean up. Looking a little better. Really nice veneer on all of these old radios. That's what draws me to them. Just the craftsmanship and just the workmanship on them. You can see these pillars on the side here, the feet, the detail here, kind of layering that they've done. Really nicely put together. Incredibly heavy cabinet, and the radio itself, or the chassis that goes inside, is incredibly heavy, so I'd hate to guess how much this thing weighs, but it is a lump. And here it is in the backyard. Everything else is done on it, so now it's getting its toners to darken up some of the edges on it, give it some contrast. And there it is, just about finished up. I just kind of plopped the cloth I was hoping to substitute into it to see how it looked, and you know, I think it looks all right. And there it is, parked away in the garage at the end of or the middle of the summer, awaiting its turn to put the chassis on the bench to have it repaired. And you know, sometimes you take a flyer on these things, you do a few basic tests and think, okay, I think I'm going to be able to get this thing to run, so I'm going to invest the time and effort in repairing the cabinet and keep my fingers crossed that I can get the thing to run in the end, and knock on wood, but I've had good luck so far doing them. Here's the knobs that were on it, and you can almost see that there used to be some labeling on them. It's pretty hard to tell, but anyway, there used to be labeling on them to tell you what their function was. Here they are, all scraped down, ready to be cleaned up. Again, you can tell here there's some, this used to be volume. Written on that label, or on that knob. And here they are cleaned up, and I worked with a guy in Michigan to try and create some water slides that I put on there, and put several coats of lacquer over it in the hope that they don't wear through too quickly. But there they are in their finished state. There's the chassis on the workbench. And there it is after it's all cleaned up. So The before, looking a little crusty. The after, looking like it just might have some hope. And on it, I just decided I'd use some trim clad heat resistant paint. This is the stuff that you would put on like an old wood stove or whatever. And anyway, it may not be perfect, but it's certainly a lot better than it was. There's the speaker from the radio. It's fairly different now. It's got all these ribs on it, and the edge on it is almost like it's almost like leather. Very different. Where today, you know, you have like foam on a speaker. This has got like a leather surround on it. And a nice big field coil on this radio. Again, there's the back view of the speaker. And it came with this kind of crazy looking cardboard piece. I'm not quite sure what the function of that is, but I kept it, cleaned it up, and put it back in. And there it is, facing out. So here's the inside of the radio, the bottom of the chassis when I pulled it out. And I was able to work with this radio just basically sitting on its side, because the power transformer on it is so heavy. It just, you turn it on its side, lay it on the transformer, and it's not going anywhere. So I did all the work from there. This is the top third. You can see all these beautiful old caps in here, most of which, to me, if not all, looked original. There's the middle section. And the bottom. And this cap here was the only one that I could see or easily discern that had been replaced on it. And again, you know, you crack them open and look at all this good stuff. Anyway, nothing that can't be cleaned up. Again, the old caps and resistors. And one thing Stromberg Carlson has in their radios is a lot of capacitors. There it is with all the gunk removed. And here it is after it's been recapped. Just see all the capacitors and some of these replaced resistors in it that were out of spec, or at least suspect. And here are some safety capacitors on the AC line coming into the radio. This is what used to be there. I just disconnected and left it in just because it's not hurting anything there. And here is the extensive collection of capacitors and resistors. And how do you like the there's the former AC plug. Beautiful. Not quite sure what happened to that, but anyway. So quite a collection of bits and pieces that had to be replaced on this in order to get it to run properly. This thing here is the volume control on the radio. It gave me all kinds of fits. It's a Bradleyometer, or at least I thought it was giving me all kinds of fits. So here it is opened up, and it's got all these, apparently there's like 50 discs or more in here that as you turn the control on the radio, this wiper goes up and down these discs. There's various degrees of resistance along the path here that control the volume up and down. This thing here, a little bit odd. It's a bit of a, I don't know if it's some kind of a tap or what, but it's connected to the side of the control, and you can definitely hear when it passes this point the volume pick up. But anyway, I cleaned it all up with deoxit and a host of other isopropyl alcohol and things. Got all this junk out of here and up in here. All this stuff that's pretty much hard to see with your bare eye until you actually take a picture of it like this and then take a nice close-up look and go, oof, that needs some help. So this is a little bit about the that potentiometer. Stepped potentiometer, 50 steps. It's a series of discs. And I guess it was used in a host of different applications in various configurations. But anyway, there's some old material that I think came off of the Antique Radio Forum website. I was able to find it there. Great resource, that site. And this thing has a so when I thought the potentiometer was giving me all kinds of grief because you could turn the volume control up and down, and you'd pass certain points on it, and all of a sudden it would just like start booming out sound, and then after a while it would get rattly and disappear totally. And anyway, it was just a real mystery. So I kind of turned away from it for a while, thinking, oh God, I'm gonna have to replace that thing. Where am I gonna get a replacement? All that rattling around in your head. And I turned my mind to, you know, trying to check out this tandem resistor, because there is nothing on the schematics, nothing anywhere that tells you what the values are. So I took the measurements of the resistances I found between the different points on them, on the 3 sections of it, and these are the values I got. And as it turned out, the very bottom section of it, the one that was labeled 522 ohms, was bad, intermittent, I don't know what, but it would go from anywhere from that 522 that I had scratched on there up to 1.5 meg, and it would be dancing all over the place. So anyway, I built up my own little makeshift kit to replace the resistor. And first of all I replaced 2 sections, one with a 3000 ohm resistor and the other with this 300 ohm resistor. And you know, after this is the final configuration I came to that made the thing sound pretty good. My volume control worked great after that. So obviously there was something going on with this resistor that needed work. So then I backed off and I took this piece out, the 3000, and just worked with this end of like the bottom section of it, and found that it was only the bottom section that needed to be replaced. And so that's what I did. I eliminated the bottom section of the tandem and put in 300 ohms of new power resistors in there, and I think they were 10 watt I put in it. Magic Eye, there it is. It's got the usual problem where it's got this resistor stuck between two pins on the inside of the housing that holds the tube, so it's got to be replaced. So here I am just experimenting with some other resistors on those pins on that tube to see if I can get it working, and lo and behold, I did. So this radio has these discs or cylinders that have these swirls on them for the volume and the fidelity on them. And again, there's somebody who had made a home and apparently was a lifelong resident because he was still there. You can see all this junk on here. I don't know, it's all kind of a pasty, gooey mess that just was impossible to get off, and when you turn the dial, it just looked sad. All these black specks going past the glass on the nice dial cover. So I decided to bite the bullet and just clean those discs, and when you clean them, the paint, everything comes off them, so they are just basically a, you know, semi-transparent disc. So I worked with a piece of red vinyl that my sister, who is a very crafty person, provided me this piece of vinyl, and I cut out some new swirls to put on and patched them in place of the painted sections, and hey, they worked out all right. This is me cleaning up the dial face then on the main dial. I learned a while ago that using mineral spirits was the way to go, because just water and soap or anything else will take all of the markings on the dial face off. They will disappear. So mineral spirit seems to be the only cleaner that you can count on not to do that. And again, you know, if you do these things, be very patient, go very slow, work with a section like this that, yes, you don't want to wreck it, but you know, if you do make a little bit of a mistake, or you're rubbing too hard or whatever, or use the wrong thing, that you will quickly see this start to disappear, and you will have not made the mistake on the main face. So here's the back of the cabinet. It's got the new acoustical labyrinth label on it that basically I was able to recreate off a picture I found on the internet, and sent it over to the Walmart photo lab, where you can make a 11 by 14 poster, and made my little poster and glued it on. So let's take a look at this Stromberg 160. Kind of like the wraparound veneer on both sides of it. Gives it a nice contrast. Happy with the way the dial cloth replacement turned out. All the relabeling of the knobs and front of the radio, and my swirls and things that I redid. Produce the indicators for the fidelity and the volume controls.
So as I said earlier, I like to put a 3.5mm jack on it. So that's on a switch in the back. And when you flip that switch, it's a dual pole switch, so it shuts off the power to one of the IF tubes. So it stops any kind of bleed through from the radio when trying to play it in a streaming audio mode. So it's got the 5 bands. Some of them never have anything on them. So there's the lower band, broadcast, aircraft, shortwave. Sometimes there's stuff on here.
Spiega la sua formidabile formazione musicale in questo.
Understand what the will of the Lord is.
Looks like we got a bunch of stuff bunched together here. But there's the idea anyway. You can spend a good part of an evening just flipping through the bands and seeing what you can find. So as I said, there's 5 of them. This is obviously the most active, the broadcast or AM band. So start down here. You can hear me rolling through a bunch of stuff here.
Everyone at Royal LePage Don Hamilton Real Estate Brokerage would like to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas.
It's hard to see the activity of the eye tube when there's as much light here as there is. Trust me, it's moving.
Tomorrow becoming a mix of sunny. FAU and Florida.
So tonight there's a lot of stuff coming in across Lake Huron.
But apparently now happens every year because everyone references it, even though it doesn't. Just like think about it for a second, man.
Lanky. I mean, he was here.
People like you enough, thank you.
Support the mission of Say Information Network.
This month, KYW News Radio.
You ever talk to Hunter Biden about...
Remember, and Representative Howard Russell. He's talked to a little bit.
Incredibly powerful radio.
Top Tech Gift Guide has something for the movie lover.
They
put together. Now, Weisselberg was precious. They still don't get Trump.
I don't know.
Yes, it is a Kyrie Irving. Down a...
There you go, pretty much end to end on the AM dial. There is something that's coming in here tonight. So it works extremely well. And really didn't have to do much with alignment on this radio because it is quite a job they did at the factory many moons ago, and doesn't really seem to have drifted much from the day it rolled off the assembly line. So the thing really belts out the tunes, and you can see this fidelity makes a difference, and it almost sounds like you're standing right there with the band when they're playing, or the person when they're talking. And like I said, I got a 3.5 millimeter on here, and just flip over to that. And it's also connected to the I tube and an IF tube, so you can see the I tube slowly fading away, and as it does, an IF tube inside is doing the same. So radio is any kind of radio bleed through is dissipating.
Sweet deal for Wheels 1045.
And there we go.
With gas prices at an all-time high, you're probably looking for ways to cut costs. Like no more road
Streaming
trips,
audio
restaurants, movies.
through a Bluetooth device, or you can plug your phone right into it, or put a CD player on there, or
Rocket Money helps rev up
just
your finances
imagine.
so you're ready for whatever comes your way. The app tracks your spending and gives you real-time alerts so you
And,
never overdraft again. With
this
the
is
app,
what the
you can see all your subscriptions at a glance and
Bluetooth
cancel
is
the ones you don't
playing
want
from.
in
So this is
seconds.
being transmitted from my laptop
The customer service required.
to the Bluetooth device / the radio.
So you can build up cash without ever having
So
to
you
think about
can
it.
control it from afar if you're using a phone or some other device.
$700 a year. With Rocket
Or
Money,
obviously you
get
can
your
control it
finances headed
right
in the
here at the radio.
direction, so you don't have to put the brakes on everything you want to do. To learn more, go to rocketmoney.com/music to download today. Or download the Rocket Money
So
app
there we
from the
have it.
Apple app or Google
My
Play
new
stores.
favorite radio, the Stromberg Carlson 160.
Who are you?